Jamie, Nate, and Bethany. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. It's great to be here.
Yeah, super excited.
This interview, being a part of this for me was selfish. I'm going to be totally honest, is I cannot seem to get my wife, to exactly your point, to care about what we're doing. I say we because I want to make it inclusive, right? What do you see as the biggest holdup for people, or the biggest hurdle for couples to kind of get over as you're working with them? Because I do struggle with this, that I want her to be so big of a part of this, to the point I was like, why don't you get your realtor license? Why don't you do this? And there's just not that passion right now for her to want to do that. And so, if you don't mind, and this may be kind of taking it off track, but that's, to me, is like, I would love to know what the secret sauce is.
I think you got to figure out the dynamic of the individual, of your relationship. Every relationship is different. You have kids, which is a little bit different dynamic. You got to work through. Sure. I don't have kids, so I can't speak to that. But just generally speaking, I think it's more of along of kind of asking that same question that she talked about, is figure out what's really important to her as far as like with kids, or maybe it's her parents, or maybe it's something else that is really important that she wants to be able to contribute to, that it's not going to happen unless you have more time and you have more money. And then once we figured that piece out, then we just had to figure out the vehicle that we were going to use to get to there. And then we worked out what our roles were going to be. Like right now, because we don't have kids, we have a little bit more active involved. I'm sure when we have kids, that dynamic will adjust a little bit. But even so, like one mindset that we always talk about is, even if we do have kids, I'm not going to make them our excuse. And one of my examples of that is Grant Cardone and Elena. They take their kids everywhere. They plug them in. They're at the office, and they're involved in everything that they're doing. And so while in that relationship, Elena's kind of taking care of the kids, and she's more of the home, take care of the home thing, but she's very supportive, and they're very on the same page with things. They don't use their kids as an excuse. I don't know. I don't have kids yet, so I can't say exactly what it's going to be like when that time happens. But I think it ultimately just comes down to is, do we see getting the same vision, or at least understanding each other's visions, and figuring out, okay, how do we accomplish those visions? What's our vision as individuals, and then maybe as a family? And then once you work through that could take some time. It took us a couple of years of really working through it and talking about it before it really kind of came together as far as what we're going to do. And then we just had to figure out the roles we were going to play. If we had kids, I'd imagine her role would be more of taking care of the kids and the family unit. But she's also pretty driven, so she'd probably have a little bit more integral role in the business side of things. But we would have been on the same page. So I think it's just asking those questions, asking the right questions. One of my mentors talks about the quality of the questions determines the quality of your life. And so asking those right questions, and the quality questions that get to the root of the answer you're looking for, the root of what you're trying to accomplish, I think is really important.
Y'all both have this entrepreneur, I wouldn't say, you're definitely go-getters, but y'all just have this entrepreneur spirit. What if in this couple's relationship, one spouse has this driven entrepreneur spirit, just wants to go after it, and the other one is more comfortable with the whole household just being part of the W-2 world? And this, I'm using air quotes for people who are just listening, guaranteed paycheck, and being part of that world, and kind of holds the other one back from going after investing or anything entrepreneur.
That's probably the toughest dynamic, right, to work through. I think it still goes back to asking that question. And I know for me, because I grew up very much that way, W-2 type mentality. I grew up, my dad was military retired, my grandpa was military retired. My whole family's, they're W-2, not entrepreneurial, which is awesome. But when I discovered entrepreneurship and I started, initially it was scary, right? It's scary when it's everything rises and falls on you. But once you learn that skill, that no matter what, I can always go out and produce and put food on the table, just like a hunter can do it. I know I can always go out and hunt and make a sale or put some up online or whatever. Like, I don't worry about money anymore. Like, we're not to the position we want to be, but once I learned sales and I learned those skill sets and I learned how to be an entrepreneur, what it means to do that, I was like, why would I would never want to go back to a W-2. But not everybody's like that. So I think it still comes down to asking the question, find out what's important to them, what do they value, and maybe they're not going to be they may not switch to be a full-on driven entrepreneur like the other spouse is, but maybe you just work out, like kind of what she said earlier, like, figure out how to cater it to their likes. You know, if it's going to an event, we'll figure out how to make it like maybe it's more just the romantic vacation. We can still develop the relationship, and maybe over time they will become more and more interested in what you're doing and what you're not doing, or what you are doing. So,
and I would add, oh, sorry, go
I'll say the last thing too is just, it takes obviously a big commitment on that, because it could take a year, it could take 2 years, it could take a long time to do that. If they're completely negative and they never change, I don't know.
It's a tough.
That's a hard one to answer, right?
What I would say to that is money talks. So I've definitely been in that position where so to back it up, we had entrepreneurial pursuits that did not go very well. Spent a lot of money, and for me, it has been very stressful. He's been the forward thinking kind of big picture person. So not that he hasn't really cared about, paying bills. Obviously that's a concern. It's always been top of my mind. So if there was one of the two of us that was going to be that kind of W-2, I'll just make the money over here, or whatever. So the best strategic advice I can give is do not quit your day job, before you can actually step away and go full bore into the entrepreneurial pursuit. Or maybe it's the one, partner, spouse that's working the W-2. That's awesome. They keep working the W-2. You got to pay your bills while you get this business up and launched and fully stabilized, or maybe, you can, the one who's doing W-2 can just, they're just supportive as an overall spouse, as long as they're positive and supportive and, good for you. I'm going to be over here, paying the bills and maybe help, making dinner and keeping, track of all the household tasks, kids on top of that. It's really all I can ask for. And then I would say just trying to make sure that you're sharing, like he mentioned, getaway trips and keeping them informed of these are our overall goals, having those kind of big picture goals. But really at the end of the day, if there's kind of a non-supportive spouse who believes the W-2 is the way to go, money truly does talk. And if you're starting to pull in a lot of money, who hates money out there? I mean, who's not going to be like, okay, cool, I would like a bigger house,
Everything y'all have talked about makes me feel like you two communicate very well together. But you mentioned it took you years to get there. But I think it's key, at least just to start having those questions and conversations. And it seems like you guys had them often. Very often. I mean, do y'all sit down? Do y'all have a block time on your schedule every week where you sit down and you talk about the state of the union and kind of what's bothering one another and put out those good quality questions for each other? How do you guys continue to communicate with one another like that?
I think the biggest thing for me has been learning how to communicate effectively and really quickly in a way that builds us both up. So I've been more guilty of this, where I'll give constructive feedback on a website or a funnel or business card that he's designed. And I'm just like, this, and this needs to change. Say that. And then I just walk out and he's like, you are so rude, So we'd have some confrontation
Tough
about that. Yeah. But as soon as we kind of tweaked our communication just a little bit, so maybe still keeping the same feedback and saying the same gist of it, but the sandwich technique, where you say something positive, then you give them the feedback, then you say something positive at the end again.
Yeah.
Or just, put your hand on them and be like, I love that. You did such a good job. Where you're kind of given double verbal and, I don't that can help, we just really help lock it in. So tweaking our communication and the style of it a little bit has just helped so much. And then understanding our unique strengths has also been really key. So there's a book out there called Rocket Fuel. It's an audiobook too. Okay. But that was really pivotal in helping us understand our relationship. Not all couples out there are like this, but I think every couple probably has a dynamic that shows this to some extent, where you have a visionary, kind of the big picture person, maybe the real driver. And then you have the integrator, who's more of the support. They help get the details in order. They help execute. And that's me. I'm really the integrator in our relationship, and he's more of the visionary. However, we both share in some things he's more detail oriented. And in some ways I'm more detail oriented. So just kind of recognizing what are our strengths, what do we enjoy doing more, and each of us working to our strengths, so that we are energized and passionate about what we're doing. I love client servicing. I love servicing our clients. I love networking. I love building relationships. I love that whole conversation piece. Nate loves talking to people and working with people, but I thrive off of it where I'm just like extremely energized by that. So, and then I also love systems and details and keeping things organized. And so really finding our key strengths has been really key too, where we can kind of stay working in our individual wheelhouses and get and thrive off of that.
Yeah, the other part of your question, we never really had block time set aside dedicated to these conversations. We just had them as we went along. If we're on a trip, we're driving, we're having these conversations. We try to have a date night once a week, and we're starting to integrate this now more so. Is at least like once a quarter, we take a trip. If we had kids who do the same thing, we'd find someone to watch the kids. Take a trip for like a weekend, go somewhere else, change the environment. And then we have more deeper conversations, reprioritizing our goals, what's really important for us as as a couple, as a family, and then making sure those priorities are in order. So that's another thing we're starting to integrate. But what really helped us, I think, discover these questions and have these conversations where we went to a lot of networking, we went to a lot of events, whether it was things like GrowthCon, whether it was real estate events, whether it was masterminds, whether it was reading books, listening to podcasts, like. We were constantly both of us were developing ourselves personally, and sometimes even in some of those books we would do together to where we'd open up those conversations. So it was a commitment on both of our parts to personal development. And honestly, the catalyst for that for us was Amway, because we did that when we first got married. Mm-hmm. Best personal development company in the country. Didn't make any money with that thing, but got us in the books, right? Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, Magic of Thinking Big. We both read those books, and we listened to the leaders in that company. They were always big picture, big visionary. They had families. They had good examples to follow, and we just kind of carry that on. And we just made a point to always find those, put ourselves in those rooms with those types of people, mm-hmm. And ask other people too, like asking other couples that had the marriage and the life that we're striving for. Hey, what's working for you? How'd you guys figure this out? Love it. And that's always, that's been an integral part of what we've been consistently doing.
And to add to that, it's so much fun to go to these events together. So for any couples out there where the one spouse is like, oh, I don't want to go to that, I'm shy, I'm introverted, for whatever reason, or if the one that's going is like, well, I'm going to this, if the one who's like, I'm going to this, so in this example, let's just say it's the husband, if he were to like, hey, I'd really like you to come along, and then if wife is like, well, I got to stay home with the kids. Maybe say, I'll take care of it. I'll get a sitter. I'll have family, whatever. Or if they are really fighting you about it, just take the leap and just book the sitter, book the family member, have like a nice romantic dinner, maybe pre-scheduled or something, and make it kind of like a little mini getaway too. Yeah. I think for me, I really enjoy meeting the people that Nate's networking with. You're just like, you want to have those same relationships. And so for me to I want to be more involved because I like meeting all those people anyway. But if he were to like, hey, I want you to come along. I already booked it. Our tickets are for these days. You can hang out in the hotel or you can come with me. That'd be awesome. I'd love to have you network. No pressure. If you don't want to, that's fine. But I just love to have you there. Yep. So if you're kind of coming from that stance of like, hey, I care about you, I want to spend time with you. And then taking the extra step of like, I already planned it out, so you can't say no.
Yeah.
That kind of breaks down their defenses
a
little bit.
Yeah. Everything's a sale, right? Everything we're doing is a sale. So it's figuring out, what the pitch is and what the approach is and all that type of stuff is important.
I want to thank you for being here. Jamie, you as well, sir. I think the conversation was incredible with you here, and we're definitely going to do this again soon. Nate, Bethany, you guys have so much going on. You've got the 7 money milestones, how money works, the financial literacy piece, your cash flow couple, multifamily masters. How can somebody listen to this, watching this, if they want to get in touch with you guys, what's the best avenue for them to do that?
Yeah, so everything's consolidated to yourcashflowcouple.com. You can find all the other things that you mentioned on there. And so, yeah, just yourcashflowcouple.com. You'll find our social media and everything through on there as well. So.
Yeah, that is our handle on the different platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So if you search for that, You'll find us too.
Awesome. Yeah. Very nice connecting with you two today. I've got so many more questions that I feel they're not appropriate for this conversation. So I'm gonna follow up with the both of you on some potential next steps. But I love what you guys are doing. It's incredible.
Awesome. Sounds great. I'm looking forward to it.
Good.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for letting me be a part of it, guys.
Absolutely.
I got a lot of value out of it.
Awesome.
Good.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, guys, take care.